Good morning. Good to see you. There is a lot to say, and in typical wild style. Not knowing where it goes next is part of the greatest joy because it creates space to access some of the deepest mysteries. I typically find that when I'm invited to step past where I used to be, you don't get to know what comes next. You close your eyes. You agree to stop trying to see in perfect detail. And you embrace the potential by feeling it. There's a reason your root is so sacred. Sacred. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I longed for once in a lullaby. In life, it's tempting to imagine things in relation to physical proximity. We step up close to something and then take another step and you're there. Vibration does not work this way. This is a gift of the world. This is a gift of the material plane, but it is damaging to our imagination because imagination does not work this way. I am telling you that the easiest, the most graceful, and the most accessible way to access energy beyond yourself, energy in a higher frequency than your crown, is through your root. How could this be? It's this way because we're talking in music, and we're talking in the music of light. Somewhere. If you put the notes out one at a time, like this, do, 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 some would be the root, where would be right above the root. Right above the root is the doubling of the frequency. The root is a lower version of the same note. When you make this relationship somewhere, you're doing something that actually they don't do very much in music. When you think about the songs that you've loved, they rarely do this, skipping in octave shape. And this leap of faith is a magnificent way to access a new place within yourself. Your root holds both of these frequencies. Think about the piano. We've set up the piano in this dun 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 dun. We put them in order, right? I mean, that seems to make sense, but that's not how it has to work. I'm telling you that your root holds somewhere. Half a step down is the crown. But somewhere, both of these notes are in your root, called the first red and the next sacred. The sacred energy is already a part of you, but it's latent. This is what people know of as a Kundalini awakening. When you somehow, almost often inadvertently, embrace this sense that some and where are both in the same place. When you allow these frequencies to live together in your root and wake up, you do something that stirs the energy of what you are. And the important thing to understand, when you stir this energy, you're going somewhere. You're going down also. So we're talking 3 frequencies of C. The note C, think of it this way, works existing in your root. When you get 3 frequencies to wake up in this way, your Kundalini starts to wake up. In this stirring, something very crucial happens. And in order to understand and recognize and work with it, you have to be able to do a very basic thing that often, this is where it stops. This is where spirituality just crashes into a wall for so many folks. So I'm going to bring us back to this mystery of the root. But first, we're going to talk about something more basic. What's you and what's not you? Now there's something that happens in a lot of New Age circles that I've never been all on board with, which is like, we are all just different versions of each other. We're all just, you're just another me. This is really sacred because we are of the same great being. We are invested, we are imbued with the blood of life that runs through us all. We are all living out different ways of being. We are all living in the same universe. But the trick of the mind that says there's no distinction, there's no difference, there's no relevance between us, it's painful. It doesn't help. It doesn't help us. What does help us is of dissolving the sense of loneliness. So when I say I am another you, I'm thinking like I am this just stick and you're another stick and we're just separate. And then if you say you, we imagine this loop beneath us where we're connected by roots that feed from the same source. So I'm a you now. I am another you. It's not an accident. It's beautiful. But the trees still matter. It still matters that one tree is one tree and another tree is another tree. So we do create a different kind of problem when we decide to dissolve the distinctions as if they're meaningless. So let's be present. I invite you to recognize that some things are generated from where your roots start to your crown. This is what we're going to call you and me. When we generate energy from within ourselves and resonate out into the world, starting here, it's literally starting. This body, energy starts from within my divine essence and starts resonating out and enters the world. When I'm in a room with someone else, they could generate some energy and I could generate some energy and we could go, let's trade. And whoosh, I'm going to hold what they generated and they're going to hold what I generated. You know what happens? Neither of us suffers quite as much, because if we're generating pain and trauma, well, then I don't want to feel that. So if I've got a pain that I don't like it, and you got a pain, you don't like it, we could trade. But once we've traded, now I'm holding this pain. It's not my pain. I can't heal it. It's not mine. And you're holding a pain. It's not your pain. You can't heal it. So we can't heal. We're living in a world of karmic trades. Still. It's not going to be like this forever. We're doing the work to get out. That's what we're doing. And in order to heal our way out, everybody has to want to own their own shit, pain, trauma. Pause with that. This is where we get stuck, folks. This is where we get stuck. Because some people want to do this and some people don't. Some people make the choice to do this and some people don't. And this choice matters. You can't just say, oh, we're all part of the same thing. No, people who are choosing to heal and own their own challenges and pain and karma, there's a difference. And when somebody is not yet ready, they need to keep living in a world of trading. And when you trade, you fundamentally diminish yourself. You fundamentally sacrifice whatever proportion of yourself is wound up in the pain and the trauma. And when you make that trade, you've immediately decided that you're not going to be this bigger self. And this bigger self ends up showing you a much broader, deeper, more beautiful vision of the universe. So when we get a much broader, deeper, more beautiful vision of the universe, as many of us have, that's access. That's an invitation into who you are. And then we fall back a little, and the vision needs to be the spark of inspiration that commits you. I will do my work. I will own my karma. I won't trade because I won't live at less than who I am. I won't be less than who I know I can be. And it's this simple commitment that pushes you over the threshold into a new zone. Now we're starting to magnetize other people who are making the same commitment. Now we might still make some temporary trades. We hang out, hold my pain, you hold my, okay, we could breathe a little, okay, give it back because I really want to do my work. It's a very different way of being. And in order for it to work, you have to be able to know. You have to be able to know. I love this. It's so beautiful. You have to be able to know. I have to be able to say, no, I don't want your pain. I have to be able to say, no, I'm not going to hold it. I have to be able to say, I don't care if you can give me a lot of money and give me a lot of attention. If you just want me to hold your pain and you don't want to heal, no. But once I can say no, then I can say yes. I can say, yes, I can hold that for you for a little while. I can help give you the sense of lightness that exposes you to the edge of universal truth. Outside of the karmic ocean, gives you a breath of life. Sticking your head above the karmic ocean so you breathe what it is to be free from karma. And we can do that for each other even before we're done with our karma. It's a sacred gift. And the way to get into it is to develop a very clear sense of yourself. If you don't know who you are, you can't say no to someone else. Because typically what people are actually doing is they're saying no to parts of themselves as if their aspects of themselves are someone else. This is the world of karmic ocean. You're living, you're swimming in this karmic ocean. You see something you don't like, but you really made it. You made it. You generated it. It's in you, but you don't notice it as you. You don't know it as you. You know it as someone else, but you're wrong. And when you know it as someone else and you're wrong, you can't work with it as your own. And when you can't work with it as your own, you've sacrificed yourself. You've cut off a piece of yourself. But it's a double problem because you really believe that that's not you. You really believe that that is the other person. So what do? You make yourself louder. When you make your own energy louder, it becomes easier to distinguish. This is me, this is you. This is why when you get a good, healthy spiritual practice going, it hurts more You have to feel more of your anger. You have to feel more of your frustration and tension and sadness and memories of lost love and memories of failed dreams. I can't say this enough. This is the threshold. If you want to do it differently, you're going to have to do it differently. You'll have to find someone who will help you hide from your pain. Yoga doesn't really work that way. Yoga is designed to bring it up in a way you can face it. You see the difference? If you're just looking to not suffer, it's not a particularly great path. Now, it is a great way to heal your suffering, but you have to be able to get your mind out of the specific of like, oh, I feel suffering now. Make it stop. Make it stop. I don't want this. I don't want this. Make it stop. Make my headache go away. Make my stomach ache hurts. Oh, I'm so sick of my stomach hurts. Oh, stop it. Stop it. No. When you're in the middle of the suffering, you have to say, who am I? What are the roots of this? How can I heal the roots of this? It is the best way to heal your suffering, but it's not the fastest way to get out of an immediate relationship to your suffering. The fastest way is opium, heroin, pain relievers, fentanyl. Pain relievers. Pain relievers are the fastest way to avoid your suffering. You just have to be the one who's aware they come at an extraordinary cost because they're not making the pain go away. They're drowning the pain out. And they're moving your psyche to a place from which, when you lose the leverage of that influence, that pain reliever, your pain is now a more prominent part of your life. Does that make sense? If you're using what's fundamentally a distraction, and opiates are fundamentally a distraction, they're allowing you to generate a feeling and an intensity that is greater than your pain. But it's still a distraction. It's a way to drown it out. When we drown out our pain doesn't go away. And when we've drowned it out, when we dissolve our mechanism of distraction, the pain is screaming in our face. It gets worse. So then we root back to these where we say, there's a middle ground for most people. Many people live with enough of an ability to contextualize pain that it's like you can go through your day. I pray that most of you are free from deep addictions in this form. Now we're talking about the medium addictions of a sort. Distractions that are just as real, YouTube. YouTube watching things that are not good for you. Having a job that isn't particularly good for you, but helps you forget about your problems, gives you enough stability to feel, something else other than your memories of what you don't like. And over the course of decades, people get used to this, right? Once you've gotten used to generating a life where you can sort of focus on it, your memories are with you, but you've learned how to hold them down. When I come along and say, all right, let's do some yoga, it's going to make you remember how pissed off you are. You're like, fuck you, Daniel. And I don't blame you. But here's the thing. When you generate a health inside your body, you're generating it from within you. A distraction is fundamentally outside coming into you. A health like yoga is coming from the inside out. So when you generate it, it doesn't disappear. So when you're holding it, it's not going to slip away. And it puts your pain in context. Same pain, same anger. But when you're in your practice, you can look at your anger in a different way. So I'm telling you, we invite you into this in order to look at your anger in a different way. It's the same anger. But you used to want to just stop it, make it shut up, make it quiet. And once you got it kind of quiet, you're like, thank God, I'm on top of it. I won. No, you didn't win. You still have to wrestle with it every day. Just because you're winning doesn't mean you're winning. You're not winning if you have to keep fighting all the time, even if you sort of hold it down. This is not a good enough standard. The standard for health here is that you are actually free of having to wrestle with pain and confusion and trauma. And until you claim that standard, you're not going to get it. People die painfully in confusion with dementias because they've been wrestling with things all their lives, and at the end of their life, they start to lose. The same mechanisms of strength don't work anymore when you're 80. So choosing a standard that says we have to get in there and feel it and face it and change the roots. Okay. So that's the next pause point. And I'm going to say hi, and then we're going to go into why past lives matter. Ta-da! Kidsy, thank you. Everybody was late. Xander, Shannon, Tom, thank you for being here. Angie. Oh, I am too, Angie. It's perfect. It's really all in tune. Jessica, good morning. It's good to see you. This is Elora. I'm so glad you're here. And thank you for the likes, by the way. They make me smile for sure. It feels good to be liked, you know? It doesn't feel good to depend on likes, but once you don't depend on them, it's like, hey, thanks for liking me. It's a nice experience. The difference between knowing yourself and not knowing yourself is not the difference between being well and not being well. You can still be wounded. You can still be flawed. You can still carry baggage that you haven't dealt with, but you can have an honest relationship to this karma. When you know that karma is your own, a lot of suffering disappears because so much of suffering is about struggling against what is true. I like to say 50%. G.I. Joe taught me this when I was a kid. Knowing is half the battle. When you know the truth about yourself, 50% of your anguish can just, you don't have to suffer. When you're struggling to say, there are two ways to do it. The worst way is like an ism. An ism says, I'm going to take my pain, I'm going to completely ignore it, and I'm going to project it over there. And when I project it over there, I'm going to say, everybody like that is the problem. I'm not the problem. Everyone like that is the problem. That is terrible suffering because it's a lie. It's not true. So you have to keep working constantly to try to reinforce that idea in your head. And it's a very hollow idea. You have to like bleed into it. It doesn't have any innate truth. So when you have to keep giving your strength into lies like this, you suffer a lot more. The next level down, which unfortunately many people are acquainted with, I'm certainly not immune to, is, well, I'm suffering, but I'm not suffering as bad as that guy. Yeah, great. Doesn't have anything to do with that guy. If you feel better because you're not suffering as much as that guy, you misunderstand. Now, sure, there's a humility in not, as I was taught to think, feeling sorry for yourself, like where you just vortex into thinking your pain is the only thing that exists. Absolutely. When you recognize that someone else has far worse troubles than you, it can shut up the complaining mind. But it doesn't actively change the fact that you're still bearing pain, trauma. So it's important not to use and then misuse our relationship to society this way. It's important to be honest, saying, this is my pain. I'll keep it in context. I'm really grateful that I don't suffer as much as that person and that person, but I refuse to just live with this as if this is forever. No. You don't have to live with suffering as an eternal thing. And this is where we come to the point that many people turn it off. I'm telling you something. There are two forms of energy that you're going to encounter that feel beyond healing. This is happening to you already. The first form is that you are in constant relationship to an energy that isn't yours. So someone else near you has made some kind of trade with you or some kind of deal with you where you help them avoid their pain by kind of taking some degree of ownership for it. And when you do that, you can't heal it. So you're just carrying it all the time, and that's going to generate an undercurrent of hopelessness. The hopelessness says, some part of you knows you can't heal it. It's true. You can't really heal it. So some part of you, there's no words. It's desperate to feel like you are something, but it's impossible to heal it. But notice the key in this dynamic is it's not really you. The flaw is in identifying some of these energies as if they are you. Now, how do you know the difference? You do your practice. Really. Your practice is going to constantly invest energy in what's real. It's going to constantly invest energy in you. And it's coming through the gift of this body that Gaia gave you. By taking care of these and just it never ends. It's your lifelong commitment. You keep beating your heart, you keep breathing, and you keep making those things stronger. It's the basis of it. Then you give yourself some water, okay? You do these things for the rest of your life, and it's never going to stop, and it's awesome. Every bit of those steps, the water and the breathing and the heartbeat, that's all directly empowering what's really you. So the better you get at empowering what's really you, the greater a distinction you're going to make. You're going to start to make it obvious what is you, or more obvious what is you and what isn't you. And then you come to the other kind of energy. The other kind of energy is yours from another life. I haven't met someone immune from this. I've met people who claim to be watchers. They're just like visiting for a lifetime. And I didn't notice that it wasn't true. But I didn't know how to measure it. Everyone I've looked into, been here more in this lifetime. Everything I know when I ask, you don't get to just live a physical lifetime on this planet. It's against the rules. So as I said, I've met people who claim that they're just walking through for a lifetime, but nothing I know indicates that that's really accepted. There are certainly people who are more voyeurs and then get to leave. But everybody has got to learn to be an animal some. Everybody has got to feel that predator and prey dynamic. Why am I talking about that? Because the trauma of being hunted and killed lives in you. You know what it feels like. You want to know how you calm it down? You also live as a predator. When you do that enough, you end up realizing that kind of sucks. Like there's a joy in being in the body. You get to experience it. You get to like the sun. You get to like the water. You get to like running. But there's a reason there's more prey than predators. Our soul doesn't really like staying in that viciousness. Some beings manage to do it, but I assure you, they know they're suffering. It hurts to play that role over and over again. People they get into new agey stuff and they're like, yeah, I'm a lion. Oh, dude, do you know what it is to be a lion? You've been in an animal's consciousness enough to know you're in an animal's consciousness? There's a deep loneliness and sadness there. Being a lion, oh my God, you never get to trust your mate. Lions will kill their mate if their mate goes to another. Like the pain and anguish that comes with those dynamics is extreme, and you have to know it in yourself. The reason most of us don't want it at all is because we know it. We've been there, we've felt it, we've lived it, and we've rested it. It all negates. You live in all the different roles, and you don't want to be in those roles anymore, so it calms down. But elements of your other human lifetimes remain karmic. You will mostly have to feel it without remembering the details. And that brings you into this quietness. Because as you quiet many of the dramas in your life, it makes your past lifetimes louder. It's all in relationship. It's all in relationship. When there's less noise, it's not actually louder, but it's more prominent. And that prominence forces you to deal with it. You're essentially able to distract yourself from remembering that you killed someone you love, or that you made a terrible mistake that resulted in a group of people suffering. Those kinds of traumas live on in your karmic memory until you come to terms with them. And often, coming to terms with them is as simple as acknowledging them. But you don't get to just acknowledge them as a story in a fairy tale. You have to say, that's me. That was me. In order to be at peace with a wide range of spiritual awareness and knowledge, you must come to these thresholds. You must. There's no other option. So as I invited you to understand earlier in this, we come into relationship with universal love. We receive revelations in key peak moments of our existence. And those peak moments are there to be a peak. They're the high point of the year or decade for us, but they're also just a little peek into our relationship to universal love. In order to retain this enlightenment, you have to go back into your life and do the work. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You just have a better understanding of why you got to do it. It's sacred now. You're like, oh my God, thank you, Gaia, for anchoring me to this body. Thank you for anchoring me to these needs. Thank you for generating the impossible to avoid discipline of breathing and drinking and enlivening my heart and facing my karma. Because as I face my karma from this leverage of now, I am now. My memory is not now. I am now. I am here. My memory is not here. And you could cry into that bucket of water as you carry it, so grateful that the walk to carry the water brings strength to your limbs, brings presence to the moment, and helps you discern the difference. You are not the person that made a terrible mistake. Who am I talking to? It's one of you, by the way. Someone made a terrible mistake in another lifetime, and it caused a lot of people to suffer. Most of us have. And when you live in this now and you preserve your connection to a recognition that you're here in this moment, it helps discern this difference. Well, I didn't do that now. And you have to maintain that distance long enough to be able to recreate an even deeper context. Yeah, you made mistakes in 3, 5 lifetimes of a very serious magnitude, but you've lived another 20, 30 that are beautiful, kind, loving, tender, where you made sacrifices that are exquisite. In fact, you made sacrifices for love that are exquisite in the same lifetimes when you made mistakes. It's just that the mistakes, the awful moments, are often the peak moments that cut through to grab your attention. Why do you need to know these? Because you're already wrestling with it. And in many cases, these are the reasons people don't heal. Your problems in this lifetime aren't as bad as having been in the army with a sword, a deserter who robbed. Your problems aren't that bad. You'd rather have these problems, even though you hate them. You hate your problems, right? You hate how mean your partner's been, right? You hate how mean you've been, right? But it's not as bad as those problems were. So to really heal your problems in this lifetime has this like flip challenge of, oh shit, now you gotta face it. Now you can't avoid the past. The healthier you get, the closer you are to remembering. So remember. Remember. It's enough. That's where I wanted to get to, people. Any questions about this? I'm hesitant. Why am I hesitant? Okay. So I recorded a video. I'm going to tell you before I look again, because I recorded a video quick. When I started practicing yoga over 20 years ago, my yard was in a place near a parking lot. It was a suburban place, but outside New York City. It was, New Jersey. Like there were parking lots everywhere. It was a decent yard. I did yoga in the yard every day for hours, but it was near an alley where some young men hung out, smoked. And they used to, it was beyond taunting. It was like brutal abuse, basically telling me they were going to rape me and that I was gay. It was a really terrifying mix. And I lived in the house by myself, and I went through months of fear, and I wasn't going to give in. So I kept doing my yoga, and they did give up. And the yoga became this incredible gift to me on a deeper order of magnitude, because by channeling the energy into the yoga, I felt this incredible empowerment. I literally transmuted the strength, and they ended up, because I wasn't reacting, they ended up just leaving. But it was still traumatizing. And I go through phases where I notice a resistance to doing yoga outside. Well, I moved through it and was doing yoga outside, and I'm in a much safer place. And there are, bless my soul, no one's going to be taunting me like that in my backyard here. But I had to identify it. I had to feel it. I had to melt it. And when I melted it, I noticed a presence. Now, Luke, like I say, I talk to lots of things. I don't tell you about most of it, because my commitment has been to help keep you coherent and help keep you oriented to talking, for the most part, with Thoth. And Saint Germain showed up. And the reason it matters so much is that he's a much more accessible being. He hasn't been here as long. And so he's more like me. And so when I talk to him, he invited me to think of him as more of an older brother. And then he kind of laughed a little, because he's like, it's not really true, but it's closer than other relationships that I was inclined to embrace. And it helps me understand my own potential. Some amazing things have happened since last week when he showed up. And he insisted that I tell you, because being witnessed in it makes it a lot more real, and makes it harder for me to avoid some of the lessons that I don't want to face in it. And one of them, he's going to push me through now. Basically, he's telling me that I'm looking for triumphant moments. And I have to transcend the need for them entirely in order to enter the new zone I'm in. That it's a form of celebration that's predicated on victory over. And I'm carrying it a little bit like a disease. I did everything I could to commit to being a victory over for the good guys. But the ultimate lesson in this is to no longer accentuate your triumphant moments. Because even in your victory over others, there's a deep sadness that you've had to defeat another. This is the true lesson of victory. To make the triumphant moments much deeper. He's smiling at me now, because this is not so scary to learn. He says it's enough. It doesn't seem so dramatic. I was avoiding saying this. It doesn't seem that. It's like, yeah, I agree with this. That's cool. I was nervous to share these. So I know about these. Basically, the true victor knows how to redeem their foe. You don't just win and beat them. You win in such a way that helps heal them. And to do that, you have to recognize the intrinsic pain involved in any hatred and any rivalry. That no one would be your rival if they weren't suffering, and you weren't suffering also, or at least close enough to suffering that you know what they are. So the choice is to not enjoy beating them up or deflecting their pain, but to enjoy winning with as little damage as possible, as much as necessary, and then using the next phase as a part of the engagement. You don't celebrate and crack the champagne and laugh at them for having beaten them. You say, how are we going to heal this, yo? You're suffering. This sucks. You got to stop attacking people. I don't want you to go off attacking someone else. I don't want to think I won and just been part of generating you as a nasty, frightened person who goes and hurts someone I can't see. That's true victory. Janie, good to see you. It is a good day, Kinsey. Any questions, y'all? So, Thoth is more than prickly. Basically, one of the key lessons to understand about Thoth is Saint Germain works with Thoth a lot. He in fact, one of the first things he told me was that he's more committed to Thoth than I am, and that oh, he tricked me. See, this is what I was avoiding. He's laughing at me now. Basically, he told me that I've known him in other lifetimes, and I've actually been resentful because I've experienced him as a rival and I've been jealous of him, which from this lifetime feels preposterous and ridiculous. But I can sense it. I can sense it that that's been me. And essentially, he said, look, it's this simple. You wanted to explore more. I went to India out of a lifetime that I shared with them in the past. And I wanted to learn about that. He's basically encouraging me to like be myself, own it, love what I did, love what I have to give and share as a result. He says he admires my willingness to step through death, that he's actually very afraid of it in a way that, you know, he has a much longer lifetime. He has not died in a long time, and he is embodied. I've met him, by the way, in physical form. And his presence what? Essentially, he's saying it's ridiculous for me to be jealous and I got to get over it. Like, jealousy is toxic in this regard because it's inhibiting me from embodying who I truly am. That it's a way for me to hide from my own inability to see myself as honestly as I need to, embodying all the lessons that I shared earlier in this lesson, this class today. So part of my teaching in it is the dharma of it. The transition of karma to dharma is to say, I still have all this to work with. I still have all these forces that are mine. I'm not above them. I'm not beyond them. I haven't transcended all my karma. So the last phase of it is to share and teach the lessons that I have learned in a way that leads into the lessons that I am learning. And that's this work. That's this work here. And I do it not as a pure and unadulterated service to everybody else. It's part of my own work. It's part of my work to do this in a way that is seen, is witnessed. And when it leads into these things that, believe me, part of me thinks it's preposterous. Like part of me still identifies as Daniel, who was born in this body. I'm not beyond it. And that voice in my head is like, I was jealous of Saint Germain. That's stupid. Like I had another lifetime with him. That's ridiculous. It does feel ridiculous to me at the same time, but also I know it's true. It's hard to explain in another way, but I know that part of what they're asking me to do this week is to open this threshold, and I'm nervous to. I'm not going to I'm not going to put people on the spot on YouTube nearly as much because I've started to get nervous that it's not enough of a connection through YouTube for me to induce dramatic changes and then not be more present to talk to you about how it's affecting you. So even when I do the readings, I've been starting to get too nervous that it's just I can't expand numbers and adequately respond to every person and be present in a way that's healthy. So part of moving it onto the membership space is to say, hey, yo, folks, we need to be talking about what we're doing. And when I encourage you to do different yoga practices, I need to be there to talk to you about how it's going. And, in certain cases recently, things are working better than I expected. So particularly for this one dynamic that I'm going to talk about, when there's a density of karma in your navel, it means you've gotten your karma to the point where if you work it, I know it's going to bring it up, and I know it's ready to be processed. And that's worked better than I expected with some of you. And when you do core yoga and you're like enlivening the intense feelings that you've kind of just been wrestling down, you're going to feel them, and they're going to be here in a way that if you don't transmute them, it isn't helpful. It's not helpful just to bring them up. You have to transmute them. Now, as some of you have been discovering and listening, I hope, go through the whole key ring cycle. It's one of the best ways to transmute the energy. And embracing and understanding this is the kind of commitment that brings you to the edge of your karma with other lifetimes. And it's very tempting to fall backwards, to essentially refocus and re-enliven your old problems, because a subconscious part of your mind starts to creep up to the edge of, oh shit, I was a killer. Oh shit, I was a cheat. Someone cheated at cards as a gambler, got themselves killed. I know this isn't me because I've never had any of these insights or thoughts or feelings before. I'm not going to look deeper than that. I'm just telling you it's there. Maybe you know if it's you. So look, I have never met somebody who hasn't embodied in lifetimes where they've played very questionable moral roles. Because one of the deepest values of this transition, and I promise you, this is one of the toughest lessons, and this is Thoth. You say Thoth is prickly, I'm going to do my best to explain here, how, and why. I am doing my best to explain here, how, and why. Thoth doesn't stop to celebrate. Thoth is bringing you past all of it. Thoth is saying you don't get to think that you're particularly winning until you fully face your karma. So as soon as you have a victory over a healing process in this life, he's like, yeah, by the way, you remember when you died in terrible pain? And it's like, oh, gee, thanks, Thoth. Like, that's really what I wanted to learn. He's cold like that. Thoth goes into spaces that we know of as hell because he knows how to help redeem people who get stuck there. And he also knows how to challenge you to recognize that you're not as different as you may think. In order to walk this edge, you don't waste time overemphasizing things that are just merely steps along the path. And that's part of the prickliness. And another very fundamental part of the prickliness is he has no patience for projection. None. Like, for me, his lessons in not projecting were just, borderline brutal. I was like, going through the years learning them, and like everything I wanted to complain about got shoved back in my face. Like the second I tried to complain about someone else, it's like, how do you do that? Relentless. I would try to complain about something that was happening around me. How do you do that? But they're being really, how do you do that? But they were really cruel and vicious. How do you do that? I got slugged in the face 3 times by someone. I never hit them. I wasn't cruel to them. You don't want to know why they hit me? I was reckless as a healer. I challenged them to change something in a way that was not loving. And I literally unleashed their pain, and they slugged me 3 times in the face. And he didn't feel sorry for me at all. I spent the next week, it was my roommate, and it was one of my 7 roommates. And I spent the next week totally traumatized that this person lived with me, just like really, I mean, I have compassion for how bad I felt, but the relentless lesson was, dude, you fucked up. No, they're not an awful, vicious, violent person. You saw their pain, you saw their mistake, and you poked your finger right into it. And I learned my lesson. I never did it that bad again. Thoth is not prickly for no reason. He's teaching the roughest lessons. And I assure you, he for years, when I said, yes, I want this, he said, are you sure? Yes, I want this. He said, are you sure? We're going through a purge right now. There are less people here. It's purposeful. I said, I'm not giving readings on YouTube anymore. And then spiritually, I meditate. People, I meditate in the morning, I meditate at night, I meditate in the afternoon. I'm talking to your spirits. And I'm saying, yo, dig deeper now. Dig deeper. Dig deeper. That dinging is for the readings meet. I am now doing readings in the membership space. 2 reasons. One, I want to get paid some for the work I do in readings, and I've been giving an enormous amount away in the readings. And as I articulated, it's been my dharma, and I've been invited to recognize that I'm ready to change it. But the more important reason is I want to see your faces. When I see your face, I can ask you how you are. I can recognize more clearly whether you're ready to hear things and how deep we can go. And last week we were able to go much deeper. For I believe everyone who shared the space would agree. So I do invite you to consider signing up and joining us if you have not considered it yet. And if you are considering it, just do it. We're soon going to be removing the free option. We're not going to do it for free. And we wanted to give everybody who's been sort of basic, building this from the beginning, on point, check it out, following every opportunity. We kept the doors open, but it's going to transition into a purely paid model. It also happens to keep out all the bots and the spam, and it's been really annoying to have to delete spam. So it's not done yet. You could do it. You could go join now if you want to find your way in. Here's the deal. When we do these readings, we're coming from this space where I'm not here. God damn it. I wish I could show you my tenderness and love more effectively. I think I've been spending years trying to let you know that the prickliness is designed to help keep you with your commitment to maintain personal responsibility. Because you're the only one that can do this. Like, Thoth can't save me from my karma. He could distract me from it, but he can't and won't save me from it. So knowing that it's yours is ultimately so beautiful. It's such a beautiful gift to own it, to embrace it as yours. It is the same commitment that gives you access to the deepest divine feelings, deepest divine love, the deepest divine appreciation. Thoth is tender and caring and friendly and funny and patient with me because I have almost completely accepted my responsibility when it's pointed out to me. I don't get it right all the time, but when it's pointed out to me, no, that's yours. It's like, oh yeah, okay, sorry, dude. Like, I do a lot of that, but I do accept it. So as you make that commitment within yourself, you get brought back to this place. You get brought back to this place where the work is this sorting of the feelings you have within you, of the emotional and spiritual feelings you have within you. What is not yours? And you learn to restructure your life. So you stop making deals to hold other people's pain, and you claim ownership over whatever they were holding for you. Crucial piece. So you're enlivening your practice. You're saying no to holding other people's pain, and you're owning responsibility for what is yours. And what is yours in this lifetime, and what is resonant from a past lifetime. As you commit to just being willing, you start to learn. I invite you not to talk a lot about past lives with just whoever, because there is a world of people who are like, yeah, I was, everybody was a fucking famous person. To my knowledge, I wasn't anybody famous. I have never thought that I have thought that I was a famous person. And every time I looked into it, it's like, oh no, I wasn't that person. I was with them. I was like someone in their retinue, So I mostly avoid it, talking a lot about it. as I say this on a YouTube, right? But I mean, just conversationally, because certainly you can misuse this awareness and understanding to falsely claim you had a past life. My experience is that the truth resonates without work. One of the key experiences, one of the key moments of my life was when I fully cried as the person who had committed a terrible crime. And once I did that, several years of violent visions stopped, never came back. So, as much as that is difficult to prove, there's a sense of settling into trust when you recognize the truth. And nothing's better. It's just, you rest in it. You rest in it, even though, we're not going to prove this by definitions that convince many universities, perhaps. And it liberates you. It liberates you to no longer be afraid. I would suggest that most of you are haunted by resonance from past lives, and it lives in your root. Your root is the storehouse of this energy. It's where we bottle it up and hold it still. Kundalini is the release. It is the release of the resistance to the energy in your root. And as the yogis taught us, in their words, Shakti then moves up through. But to be clear, the Shakti that's moving through allows pure life from the world to move through. Prana becomes apana and enters you and embodies. As it's doing that, everything latent comes to life, and you have to be willing to remember. And it's helpful to engage those memories as if they're already here. Your past lives are programmed into memory in your root. If you breathe with your root and simply soothe this, trust this, say yes. You're just saying yes. You're not going on a hunting mission trying to remember all your lifetimes. You're just saying, yes, I am willing. I am willing to remember what I need to remember. And that is it's like a hidden lock that says, okay, now we can let this process continue. Now you're not going to subconsciously generate energy in dramas within this lifetime because you don't have a subconscious need to avoid these memories. And in the same time, you start to get these windows. You start to get these windows into the beauty of life beyond this. Beyond everything you've known as yourself with this name. I have a last message to share before we shift over. It's sort of quick, but I want to reiterate. It was a big deal for me to do the Why is Gender Changing class. I noticed it didn't seem to catch anybody. I've been really nervous to focus on that theme so much. Didn't really seem to resonate strongly with anyone. As I prayed about it, I'm supposed to just keep reiterating this theme. Understand that one of the key experiences of awakening to begin to remember the edge of this lifetime and your spirit embodied beyond this lifetime in this lifetime. One of the key experiences is that you start to relate to the masculine and feminine sides of yourself. I kind of like being a man. I just have a relationship to being a man that is I am a spirit that transcends gender, being a man for now. So it's like a different relationship which completely liberates the experience. And I witnessed in holistic center and commune after holistic center and commune that I visited and lived in, pretty much everybody who was going through any version of awakening was having this experience of they were a woman, but their masculine side was waking up, and they were a man, but their feminine side was waking up. And it's often in exaggerations. So if you're a tender woman, a very fiercely controlling masculine side wakes up and then shuts down. It's really confusing. It's often polarized exaggerations. And I believe I need to reinforce week after week, this is super normal. You may well relate to this in yourself, and it helps a lot to talk about it and communicate with it. Another good use of the membership space, if you are so inclined. So I will hop over very soon. Going to take a couple minutes break, but I'm excited to see you. Thank you so much. 360 love for your donation. It's nice to see donations that come without me giving readings, and I really appreciate that. Much love. Glad to be here with you this week. Talk to you soon in the reading space. By the way, so you know, we're doing readings differently this week. We're going to do a meditation together. You're going to do a reading on yourself, and then I will talk with you about what you focus and do my best to affirm or bring new elements to light that maybe you've missed. And I think that will be a much more teaching you how to fish model. Some of you might not like it as much, but I imagine most of you would prefer these. So I'm excited to begin accentuating this. See you soon. Hey, Marvin, good to see you. Welcome here. Oh, how did I learn to make those readings? Well, it's a long story. There's a video, how to talk to Thoth, that explains much of it. But honestly, I've never explicitly told the story of how I learned to do readings. And I'm going to seriously consider that, because I could sit down and do a live stream or just a long recording about it. And I think it would be really valuable. It was a quite a bit of a journey. So thank you for asking. I will talk to you all soon. Much love.